being here. Mr. Stanislaus, I was thinking earlier as we were talking about how many times you have testified. If this were baseball, your number of at-bats and your own base percentage would be one of the highest in the league. So I commend you for continuing to step into the batter's box. I know these are tough issues. Mr. Whitney, I represent many of the hardworking people that are helping to clean up the former Portsmouth gaseous diffusion plant in Piketon, Ohio, and many others who are dependent upon that work getting done so that they can reindustrialize that site and make it a productive, job-creating site for the people that live there. I'm shocked that the Department of Energy has now extended the deadline or the timeline for completing that cleanup approximately another 30 years. Makes absolutely no sense to me. The people who the commitments were made to, many of them could possibly be dead by the time the Department of Energy gets done doing what they committed to do. And it's very unfortunate that for the third year in a row, jobs are at risk because the administration has failed to request adequate funding to complete this work. The Ohio delegation has repeatedly urged the administration to present a fully funded, comprehensive plan for decontamination and decommissioning activities at the site. Unfortunately, financial instability continues year after year. Back in May, the House of Representatives approved full funding, $213 million for D&D operations, which surpassed the administration's request by $48 million. And yet we see this dragging out process again. We're ready to work with the administration and you folks again this year on funding. But we got to have a willing partner here and a commitment on the part of DOE to move this project forward and meet the commitment, stand up and honor the promises that were made to the people of Southern Ohio. So with that said, what are DOE's plans to address this issue?
Thank you, sir. Yes, and we are committed to the cleanup of Portsmouth, and it is unfortunate that warning notices had to be issued at the end of August. Our request for 16 is actually a little bit more than the President's request for 15 for Portsmouth, and it's about $227 million for 16 in our request. Unfortunately, the request, as well as the House, even though the House mark was a very large increase over the President's request, and the Senate mark did put us in a position where we had to provide funding guidance that was lower than the 15 request. Now, on top of, as you know, sir, on top of the $227 million request, we were able to take advantage of barter of uranium, which probably the proceeds, depending on the price of uranium at the time, is another $160 million approximately. So that's almost a $400 million investment in the.
I get that. I get that. But see, the citizens of Southern Ohio, they were not party to developing the formula that determined how this was going to be funded. They were the recipient of a promise by the federal government and the Department of Energy. I think the Department of Energy has a responsibility, as does Congress, to work together to figure out a formula. And I understand that the sale of uranium has caused a wrinkle, but we need to resolve the wrinkle and come and develop a new formula if we have to, and not make it at the expense of the workers and the folks that live there. So. I would urge you to take back to your leadership, at least from my perspective, and I can't speak for all of the Ohio delegation, but I feel very, very certain that they would agree. This is unacceptable to think and ask the people of Southern Ohio to wait another 30 years to trickle this process along. It's just not right. Okay. Mr. Conger, in your written testimony, you state that DOD works together with federal and state environmental regulatory partners to prioritize sites for cleanup based on worst first. Would you please explain the process that DOD uses to determine which sites are the worst?
So generally, it's a risk-based process that is looking at the risk to human health and the environment. Well, I say generally. I've heard the term risk plus, and what that means is there are other factors that we take into account as well. If there's a low-risk site that happens to be co-located with a high-risk site, we might do them both because it's economical to do them both at the same time. So that low-risk site might be lumped in and done earlier. But generally, as we rack and stack this list, it's based on risk to human health and the environment.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I got a lot more I could ask, and I appreciate the committee's indulgence to ask that first question, but I yield back.
And gentleman knows that you can submit questions for the record